Today on Locked On Rockies. That's a solid series win for the Rockies. Comeback wins, hard-fought games, minus the finale. But that's the type of stuff you like to see for the Rockies as the quest for an above 500 month continues.
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the 16th day of September in the year 2024. I'm your host of the Locked On Rockies podcast, Paul Holden, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. And if your team is the Colorado Rockies, guess what? You're in the right spot, because that's what we do around here each and every day, free and streaming on your favorite streaming services. We're also on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, where you can be part of the show. You can fire off your Rockies hot takes. You can let me know what's on your mind when it comes to the Colorado Rockies, because things are still pretty interesting here as we're going down the stretch. We're still on our quest for 1,000 YouTube subscribers. Looks like we're running out of time to hit our goal there by hitting it by the end of the season. So if you can help us out, if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel yet, go do it. It's free. You don't have to pay for it or anything like that. But just go check it out. You can see the video portions of the podcasts there and lots more. In the meantime, we're going to talk about the Cubs series. We're going to talk about the highlights, the lowlights, all the good stuff in between. We're going to talk about, of course, the Rockies bouncing back with 2 solid performances. And I want to kind of go through some of the numbers where the Rockies are at right now, especially when we're comparing them to last year, when you're thinking of, what is the state of the Rockies? Where are we at with the Rockies? How do these Rockies compare to the Rockies of the past? And we'll get into all of that and more on today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Before we do, though, got to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB and use code all lowercase LockedOnMLB to win $50 instantly when you play $5. So the Rockies here, they get a series in which the Cubs were on the ropes in terms of the playoffs. And then what do? They come back twice and come back in grand fashion. Good, solid power hitting and late as well. The Rockies in game 1, after holding on to the lead there 4-2 for most of that ball game, and then increasing it to 5-2, it gives a 5-5 ball game there as the Cubs answer back late. Bullpen problems once again. But then it's the Rockies. The Rockies come back. They made Coors Field the enemy for the Cubs in this weekend. They got the job done. They hit the ball well. They were productive. And of course, it highlighted by the fact that the team as a whole contributes. Every single person down the lineup, other than Nolan Jones, unfortunately for him, had an impact in that game. It was the Hunter Goodman game, which he was just absolutely stellar. And a moment for him that I think he needed that. I think Hunter Goodman was sitting here in a moment where he was the next prospect to kind of start being like, where am I going to find am I going to catch? Am I going to play outfield? How do I get in the lineup? You get in the lineup by hitting 2 home runs in a day that total for 7 RBI, and having another hit in that game as well. And over on Purple Road today, Evan Lang, friend of the show, is writing about Hunter Goodman's case for catching here. But here's some stuff here from that piece, which is interesting. As he mentions in the piece, he talks about Fangraphs not really excited. He talks about how the Rockies were kind of messing up how they were handling with Goodman, because remember, Goodman's played outfield, Goodman's played first base, Goodman's caught. So he's trying to find that spot. And when he's mentioned himself that he likes to catch, and he feels more confident behind that. But there's some storylines behind here. Playing in 34 games between May 18th and the All-Star break, Goodman made 11 more appearances behind the plate. Offensively, he struggled, racking up 31 strikeouts and just 2 walks while posting a 191 batting average and a 209 on-base percentage. However, he did flash potential as a power threat with 7 doubles and 5 home runs. The highlight of his stretch came on June 15th against the Pittsburgh Pirates when he went 4 for 5 with 2 home runs. The power exists for Hunter Goodman. It's not that consistent power, but again, If you multiple multi-home run games in a single season is a good sign. Back to Evan's piece. Goodman also drew praise for his abilities as a backstop, which he had been working on over the offseason with former MLB catchers and Rockies catcher Dustin Garneau and bench coach Mike Redmond, as well as bullpen catcher Aaron Munoz. Overall, he brings calmness, and he has a good feel for the game calling in the technical aspects of catching. He's a solid performer, Rockies manager Bud Black said. Game calling and blocking, and he throws and receives fines. It's there. It just hasn't been talked about or gotten a lot of attention. After the All-Star break, Goodman's playing time began to dry up, and when he did play, it was either in the outfield or as the designated hitter. Michael Toglia had seized the starting first baseman job for himself, and starts at catcher were once again going to the veteran duo of Elias Diaz and Jacob Stallings, and then eventually Goodman. Not Goodman, I'm sorry. Drew Romo getting promoted up there. Okay. Since Goodman returned to the big league club with the September roster expansion, he has an .871 OPS with 3 home runs and 7 doubles over 28 at-bats. He has also made 5 starts at catcher in his 9 games played. On Friday against the Cubs, he received starting pitcher Austin Gomber well while also having a fantastic night at the plate. Goodman went 3 for 4 with 2 home runs and 7 runners. What is RSI? What is that? RBI? Runs scored in. I don't know what evidence is there. I haven't seen that one before. And then the reason why the Rockies got back in the game was because of the grand slam after the Cubs tied it up. That's how the Rockies got 4 there. But basically, Evan goes on to point out there is a case here. It's just going to be, how are the Rockies going to manage this time with Romo, and then because you need to keep Stallings, I think, for at least a little bit, at least to start the season, you need to keep Stallings here. And here's what Evan has to say, kind of to close things out here. The Rockies' catching position for 2025 is surprisingly murky. When Drew Romo was promoted, it was expected that he would receive the lion's share of playing time, and he did for a time. From August 17th through August 31st, Romo made 8 starts as catcher, splitting time with Jacob Stallings. However, he has played less than expected so far this September. With the month half over, Romo has just played in 5 games so far with 4 starts behind the plate. In that time, he has just 1 hit in 16 at-bats. At the same time, the veteran Stallings has thrived this season in Colorado, hitting .261, .358, .455 in 75 games with a career-high 9 home runs. Stallings, 34, is a mutual option for 2025 that could see him return to the team next season, and with Elias Diaz now gone, the Rockies could look to retain him as a veteran presence for a young team getting younger. Stallings has also embraced his role as a teacher for the younger catcher group. It's just helping them understand that the struggles of the big league are going to come, whether it's behind the plate or at the plate, and the guys who are most consistent mentally. Just be nice to yourself. The game is so much faster up here, especially for a catcher. For Hunter Goodman, the last few weeks of 2024 season represent a chance to establish a role for himself with the future of this organization, both at the plate and behind it. So that this is a moment. This is a chance for Hunter Goodman, and really, this is a chance for a lot of guys. This is a lot of this month, especially if the Rockies finish above 500 this month somehow. It's going to be a very tough task to do so. 5-7 in this month right now, against great teams, against basically a month full of playoff teams. If you, the Rockies, come out on top of that, if you, the Rockies, come out above 500 or at 500 this month, you feel good. Mixed in again, though, this is the moment for Hunter Goodman to make his claim, to make his case. Aaron Schunk to make his case. Beck to make his case. Nolan Jones to make his case. Every person that hasn't guaranteed themselves a spot on the roster needs to make their case. And that's what's great to see from these games this weekend. Hunter Goodman, huge day, and had his opportunities and took advantage of them in this series against the Cubs. And that just needs to be the theme for the rest of the month. Let's just focus in on the microscopic view of this month. It should be about this sample size being it is important, because if Hunter Goodman can play well against wild card caliber teams of the NL Central, then hopefully that'll bode well for this really tough matchup with Arizona coming in. It also, again, builds that confidence and reminds Hunter Goodman, while he's going through a very tough fight for position and playing times, that he's ready to play at this level. He's ready to handle this. And it's just about our theme of the season, our theme of last season, that consistency that we've talked about time and time again. But what I liked, but what I liked about this weekend was we saw a fight from a lot of people. Sam Hilliard, he has grown into his role. Another pinch hit, huge, big time home run from Sam Hilliard in this series as well. The Rockies, for whatever reason, that comfort level at home and in that road trip, not every game, but in that road trip, in the games that they won, they rose to the opportunity, they rose to the chance, they rose to the occasion, and handled their business. Going back to that Friday game again, it was the big Hunter Goodman game, but Ezekiel Tovar's got a couple of hits in that game. Brenton Doyle gets on base with a hit. Ryan McMahon, 2 hits. Brendan Rodgers breaks his walkless streak, gets 2 walks, gets a hit, gets an RBI. Michael Toglia, a couple of hits in that ball game. Again, no, we said Nolan Jones, but Jordan Beck, Charlie Blackmon got on with a walk. The whole team contributes. And when the whole team is contributing, it shows that there is more talent on this team. They do have more abilities and the ability to make things painful. And let's take the game against the game 2. Rockies fall behind early in that game. The Rockies are trailing 2-0 in that game and eventually are trailing 3-1 going into the bottom of the 7th. And then in the 8th and the 9th, the Cubs respond back to the Rockies' answers. So it was a moment in which it was a stalemate, and it was a moment in which the Rockies, since they had fallen behind early, had to show off and flex some muscle a little bit and get back into it. And they did. Instead of it being a moment in which the Rockies collapse, instead of it being a moment in which the Rockies fall apart, the Rockies handled business. The Rockies got after the bad Cubs bullpen. And the Rockies were able to navigate an error in that game, navigate being out hit in that game, and come up big with the extra innings. Shutout inning a scoreless frame in the top of the 10th. So important. Sets up the winning walk-off for the Rockies in the bottom of the 10th to get that win, to get that series win, and to get that rare 3rd win in a row for the Rockies. This team has fight in it. This team has a pulse a little bit. There's still a lot of problems, but it does mean something. It does matter. The Rockies basically took the Cubs out of the playoffs. The Cubs had a window, and that window is just about slammed shut, thanks to the Colorado Rockies this weekend and late heroics there. The Rockies coming alive and scoring all of 6 of their runs in the back half of the ball game. I mean, that's adjustment right there. That's staying in the ball game. That's remaining confident. That's not getting down on yourself. That is winning the mental battle in that game, which is something we haven't seen the Rockies do a lot of. So really great to see that there and really great to see the fight. Let's take a look at some of the numbers and some of the things we really and some more of the things that we liked about this series, some of the things we didn't like about this series coming up here on Locked On Rockies. Before we do that, though, got to tell you about the folks that help make this show possible, and that includes FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sports book, and they got you covered for all the sports. You want to get in on the NFL action? They got you covered. WNBA action? They got you covered. Baseball? Of course they got you covered. Props, parlays, the whole 9 yards. You can see it all for yourself. And when you head over to FanDuel, they got something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with the YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel any time. Just visit FanDuel.com, download America's #1 sportsbook. That's FanDuel.com, America's #1 sportsbook. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast for free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. You can also find the Locked On MLB podcast for your second listen of the day. Our pal Sully breaking down all things in an exciting playoff race going on here across baseball. So stay up to date with all things in the major leagues with our guy Sully. You can also get all your Rockies play-by-play action all season long on SiriusXM and the SiriusXM app. So don't miss out there as well. That was a fun series. It was a fun series, man. I mean, it was a series in which the Rockies had a hostile crowd that was mostly Chicago fans this weekend. man, it's interesting. I mean, the attendance numbers were great, even with the Broncos in town. Oof, Broncos. Still early for them. We're going to give Bo a little bit more time here before I'm going to get too crazy. But the point is, my main takeaway, and what I think the thing that I really enjoyed, what I've enjoyed about watching the Rockies here in this month, and after the, and on that road trip, and even with the dud on Sunday, the team hasn't given up on the season. The players on the team understand the importance of the reps that they're getting right now, and I think that includes the veteran players as well. I think it's still really interesting. We haven't talked a lot about Charlie Blackmon and what's going to be next there. I don't know if we're getting it. It's about time for the shadow retirement announcement that Todd Helton did. I believe he did it after the last road trip of the season. But my point is, there's still a long way to go, especially for some pieces, because the bullpen yesterday, I hate harping on it because I know it's been tough, but it's just like, it's really not been the whole bullpen. Chavihi, again, whoa, love it. Criswell gets 6 strikeouts after Quantrill can't come out, is showing the rust. I should, Quantrill again, coming back after time off and things like that. So in reality, it's not that surprising that he wasn't at his sharpest yesterday. But Jake Bird, it's so weird because it's like Criswell and Chavihi, the young guys that the Rockies have put into the bullpen here in the later stuff. You're like, all right, very interesting. And then it's just like Justin Lawrence, man. It's painful right now, and I can only imagine what's going on through his mind, because I think it's something that we can tell from this season, something that we can tell from his performances is the mental side is at least I'm totally guessing here, but on the mound it looks like the mental side is beating him up, because it just hasn't gone well for him really at all. He's had a couple of good stretches, but 3 walks, 3 earned runs, 3 hits, 2 strikeouts. The game gets out of hand in the 9th with 3 runs. It's a 1-run ball game in the 9th. I'm sorry, it's a 2-run ball game in the 9th. I know the Rockies have got dominated in that. I mean, they were out hit 11-4. They had an error. It was much more than just Lawrence, but that's the type of stuff where it still gets with the Rockies. It's those moments, it's those issues, it's the walks, it's the bullpen, it's the struggles when people, it's the hot and cold streakiness. I mean, we've seen Justin Lawrence be great, and unfortunately this year we just have not seen it from him. And I really, and unfortunately, it's going to put him in a tough spot. It's going to put the Rockies in a tough spot. But still, it wasn't just him. I mean, the Rockies were held hitless, even drawing, what was this, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 walks yesterday. 6 walks in that game, only 4 hits. That's tough. But at the end of the day, instead of focusing just on that, instead of focusing on just those low moments, I'm instead going to focus on the fact that the Rockies bounced back twice in this series and got the job done. I'm going to focus on the fact that it was a rare 3-game winning streak this weekend for the Rockies. I'm going to focus on the fact that the Rockies bounced back and helped Kyle Freeland out after he, bounced back. And the Rockies continued to had 2 games in which they showed life. They've showed potential. They've flashed the situations, and I'm also going to focus on the fact that this team looks more confident. They look more comfortable on the field. They look comfortable together. It is small things, but if the Rockies, who are 2 games below 500 this month, finish this month at 500 or even above 500, that's a really great way to end the season. That's all above or at 500 teams that you handle business for against a 30-day stretch. And in a competitive season and in a playoff season, that would matter big time. So we have to focus on these little things. Of course, there's a lot of stuff that you want better. I don't want the Rockies to have to fight back in every single game. I want the Rockies to get ahead early. I want them to jump ahead. But instead, the Rockies got the job done 2 out of 3 times this weekend. And if you get the job done 2 out of 3 times in 3-game series, you're winning series. And if you're winning series, you are in a better position than you were. The Rockies, if they can handle business against their division rivals, because that's basically who they play throughout the rest of the season. You get the Cardinals in there, and then it's just Dodgers and Diamondbacks for the rest of the season, I believe. Yep. It's just the Arizona series that we play, and then the Rockies are in LA this weekend. Then the final homestand of the season begins next week. Wow, the season already coming to a close. The summer so fast. But anyway, that's a good milestone. That's a good win. Since Thursday, September 5th, the Rockies are above 500. The Rockies have 4 losses. They're 6-4. They're 6-4 in the last 10, 11 days. It's pretty darn good. Now do it against the division. And this is the division coming into your house. This should be the difference maker. And now is a moment to hopefully this is playoff baseball. The best equivalent the Rockies can get to playing playoff baseball in 2024 is this series against Arizona and the 2 series against LA. We'll talk about that coming up here in segment number 3 of today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Before we do that, though, got to tell you about the folks that help make this show possible, and that includes PrizePicks. PrizePicks has got you covered for all your daily fantasy sports fun because they're America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. And unlike on other apps, on PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. PrizePicks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When your picks hit, you can get your money in as quick as 15 minutes. PrizePicks also invented the flex play, which means you can cash out still if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks hit. So what do you got to do? You just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Base hits, walks, strikeouts, stolen bases, more or less. You build the lineup. You make the choices. You watch the winnings roll in. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast for free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. If your team is the Colorado Rockies, guess what? You're in the right spot. You found us. We're talking Rockies baseball here on your favorite streaming services and on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, where your support is really appreciated. Really trying to get to that 1,000 YouTube subscribers. Would love to help. Love to see you support the show over there. So go subscribe, fire off your Rockies hot takes in the Locked On Rockies comment section. Okay, so we talked good stuff in the Cubs stuff. There's stuff to be encouraged by. There's plenty of stuff that you still sit there. The Rockies fell behind. The Rockies gave up a lot of runs in this series. There's still issues. But here's the deal. We talked about the Rockies, if they have a solid month, can finish above 500. If they finish above 500, it will be the second month in the season that they have done so. But I just wanted to take a look at some other numbers here with the Rockies. Last year, the Rockies finished 59-103 with a run differential of minus 236 and a home record of 37-44. They were also 22-59 on the road, and above 500 teams, they were 31-72 to finish the season against teams that had records above 500. So this year, the Rockies are 57-93 at this point. They have a run differential of minus 225, home 34-38, away 23-55, and above 500 teams, they're 36-53. Improvement, folks. It has been a tough slog. It has been frustrating, especially when you think of all the games the Rockies have lost late this season, and you compare these to the numbers. There is improvement here for the Rockies. There is improvement. It's not seismic improvement. But if we're talking about hitting the rock bottom and ricocheting and getting back up and starting to see a reason to buy into some of the guys that the Rockies have on the roster, you need to look at these type of things. Let's focus a couple on the big tough thing here. The biggest number that you can follow to really notice the progress when the Rockies are getting back on the right track is the run differential, because they can still finish with a worse run differential than last year. And that's a problem. That's a massive problem. That is something. If you go from worst season in losses, worst season in terms of run differential, and then you set a new record for run differential the next year, and I understand the impacts of the injuries that the pitching staff has faced. I get that. That's still a problem. Still a massive problem. However, though, I zoom in on a couple of other things here. I look at two things specifically that are really important in these numbers. Home record and record against above 500 teams. 37-44 at home in 2023 and 31-72 against teams above 500 in 2023. The Rockies have 5 more wins against teams above 500 this year already at this point in the season, and can add to that total if they play well against the Dodgers and the Diamondbacks. At home, the Rockies are 34-38 this year. That is which is surprising because they're 37-44. So they still have time to go, but this is a moment where you can, if you can finish closer to 500 or at 500 for your home record, that's the type of sign you need to see. You need to finish better at home than you did last year, because the Rockies weren't as good as at home, especially in certain stretches last year as they should have been. So those are the two things I'm kind of looking for and looking at right now, record-wise, as we continue to follow these Rockies to see what type of improvement are we seeing compared to last year. If you're also curious here, runs scored, the Rockies scored 721 runs last year and allowed 957. This year, the Rockies are at 630 at this stage. Remember, that's 2023's full season. So Rockies still have, double-digit games left to play. 630 runs scored, 855 runs allowed. So a little bit of improvement there. There at least we're seeing some signs of improvement. And we're seeing signs of, it makes sense why the Rockies can embrace and play these younger guys, because it's more enjoyable at least to watch these lineups as the Rockies figure out where these guys can fit into the lineups versus seeing big rosters full of veteran names on expiring contracts. And yes, we had that in the second half of the season last year and stuff, but still, the point is there's stuff to be encouraged by. Long way to go, but a series win mixed with the possibility of improving on in some statistical areas, you'll be happy. You're happy to see that. You're also happy to see that the pitcher named Antonio Sensatella is returning tonight. So we'll talk about that. I forgot that we were going to get that. We have to get to that and the jersey talk as the City Connects are getting retired. Two Rockies storylines that we didn't quite get to on today's thing, but we'll break down Sens' start, of course, recapping the game tomorrow. So don't miss out on that. Because, folks, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Thank you so much for joining us today and making us your first listen. For your second listen of the day, go check out Locked On MLB. It is free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, just like this show. And if you need more Colorado sports coverage, Locked On Broncos, Locked On Avalanche, Locked On Nuggets, and Locked On Buffs, all free and streaming for you. Till next time, this is Paul Holden saying so long from the Locked On Rockies podcast.